Well, would you look at that? We got new toys. Alright, so as you can see, yes, we have new toys to play with for the first time in a while. So I got a really good deal on this Asus Prime Z370 board on eBay. The only problem with it was that I've got no DDR4, I've got no... The newest processor that I have is the 4790K in my everyday rig. So I picked up a cheap dual channel 8 gig kit to play around, make sure the board is alright. And then I also picked up a wonderful Pentium Gold G5400 for 55 bucks. Um, and both of these will let me test other boards because this board I'm going to use in a test bench, and then I haven't decided. I want to get a Strix board. I haven't decided if I want to go with a 3900X or go with a LGA 2066 and quad channel for my desktop. Um, it's just really, I want the quad channel. It's just really hard to justify the cost versus the price of a 3900X. Um, this will end up getting a 9900K. For the test bench, so I'll have both of the higher end of the spectrums, and so depending on how cost goes, that 39 may become a 49, just depending on how long it takes me to get there. But what we are going to do here is run some benchmarks on the 5400 just to see what you get for a $55, $60 processor. Now the other cool thing is that probably can barely even see it, but this is actually the SSD from what was my NAS, and it's not even asking me to reactivate Windows. So Windows booted clean. No blue screen, no driver issues, nothing, and that's going from it's a gigabyte GA78 LMT. It's an AM3 board, so we're going from a 10-year-old AMD board to a 2-year-old Intel board, and Windows didn't even miss a beat. I don't think I have performance test on here. Give me a second to pull up Bellark and see what that says. Alright, so it did not pick up the Intel UHD 530 display, but that's not a big deal. But we did get Windows 10 Pro, 3.7 gigahertz Pentium Gold G5400, and it's actually hyper-threaded, which is amazing to me because Intel doesn't like to hyper-thread everything. No CPU-Z, okay. However, I did actually have Cinebench downloaded. So let's see just how bad. That's pretty bad. So for comparison, my current CPU is a 4790K, so we'd be just a little bit higher than the 4770. I think an 871 is what it comes in at. So, and I have an FX6300 as well, and that's pretty accurate. So I kind of figure this will come in around the 6300. It's actually not doing too bad. I'll uninstall the NVIDIA drivers and see if I can get a download for... it's just so impressive that this thing even ran. Although it does think it's Windows 8. You know, the 9700K is a $400 processor and doesn't have hyperthreading. I would do the 9700K, but, you know, at the cost, there's just like no point. I'd rather get the 99 and have hyperthreading for the extra $100. Alright, so we came in at 393. which is below the FX6300 6-core, which is actually not terrible. The FX6300, I paid $40 for mine. This is a $55 chip, but a 6-core just barely beats a 4-core or a 2-core. See, that's wrong too. It's not a 3-core 6-thread, it's a 6-core. I don't think it's a 12-thread. Either way, however it wants to report it, it's pretty accurate to the 411. Let me see if I can get drivers for this. Alright, so I got a driver. I am pulling the NVIDIA drivers right now. And then we'll get it in, see how that does for us. The cool thing is definitely not 12 in the morning. The cool thing is, I don't even remember. I don't know. I don't remember. Something's cool somewhere. But yeah, I don't even remember where I was going at all. So this is really literally just to kind of play around with this a little bit, get the board up and running, get it heated up a little bit, make sure that we don't have any issues that come from when it actually gets warmed up. I did also get CPU-Z on here as well. It says it's a UHD graphics driver. I wish I had a 4K monitor to try it on, because I have a feeling it probably can't actually drive a 4K display. Or if it can, it probably can barely drive a 4K display. Let's try to run as administrator. I mean, it's having a hard time even just loading, there we go, even just loading the installer. But I have a Samsung 970 Pro or Plus, I think it's 970 Plus, Evo Plus, NVMe coming, and that is going to be really, really nice. That is a bad SSD right there. That will blow this Vertex 4 that I have right out of the water. And then get permanent RAM, and then get a test bench. I'm probably going to go with the Praxis wet bench. I was really that and the Lian Li, but the Lian Li just doesn't film as well, and I just like the Praxis a little bit better. Get a couple of sticks of 3200 Corsair RGB Pro just for some aesthetic, and suck a 9900K in there, and then just start testing graphics cards and have some fun with it. And then probably, no, not probably, definitely by the time I can afford to get a Ryzen rig for my main desktop, 4000 will be out. I just prefer the better single core thread performance of Intel over Ryzen's multi-core goodness, but I would really love to go. See, when you get into quad channel, you're so expensive just no matter what you get into. When you go quad channel, you're paying $1,000 for a processor, and where the 9900K is and the 3900 XR, there's just no point. I mean, at 500 a chip versus 1,000 plus a chip, there's just no point in going with the Extreme series as much as I would love to. There's just no point in it. Is there a reason we don't have video? Did my driver update knock my video out? It would. It worked before we reset. Pretty sure I have everything else going. Okay, reboot. I also find this funny, like you can hear. That's the CPU fan. And we're at 26 degrees. This thing should not thermal throttle until closer to 90. And it says it's running at 2800 RPM, but that thing is loud as all get out. So, we know it's a driver issue in Windows. So if we go black screen again, then we'll just put it to bed until we get the SSD. Hopefully, it's guaranteed delivery Friday. It's Tuesday night. Oh, now you want to work? Well, you're not actually booted up to loading the driver yet, so hang on. Okay, now you want to work. Okay, whatever. Go for it. Hey, we have a desktop. A higher resolution desktop. Okay, 1440 by 900. Looks like we have proper drivers. Alright, so let's pop into CPU Z real quick. We'll let performance test start loading in the background. We're going to see just how horrible this is. Yeah. Let's see here. Pentium Gold 5400 Coffee Lake, 58 watt TDP. That's not bad. 14 nanometer, 3.70. Those really aren't that bad numbers. Coffee Lake C370. It's sad, even it's nowhere near the fastest processor I have, but it is by far the newest processor I have. 2014 is my next newest. 8 gigs of DDR4. Sure. DDR2 2400, 1200 megahertz, so it's running right on where it's supposed to be. Cool. UHD 610. Just for the heck of it. Oh, that's not terrible. $3700X 8-core processor. Reference 511. This one nowhere close. Alright. I'm not going to make you watch the entire thing, but there are a couple spots where I want to see just how bad this is. Yes, this is so terrible. I'm actually a little surprised it's pulling 30 FPS at 1024 by 768. For comparison, my 1660 SC Ultra pulls about 210 FPS in this benchmark. 42, 48, 53, 51. Now keep in mind this is at 1024 by 768. Can you imagine if this was actually at 4K UHD? Wow, it does DirectX 10. Huh. Seven FPS. It shoots up to 25. And then it has other stuff in the picture. So it's good if you're just falling through the sky, but if you actually want to look at a tree, it just kind of goes to. That's awesome, though. Will it even? It should do DirectX 11. DirectX 11 and 12 is fairly old compared to when this was made. It's not bad. 20 FPS. Holding at 20 FPS. I mean, it's actually. This would be relatively playable. Oh, 18. Do we do DX12? Maybe. Wow, it'll actually do DirectX 12. And it's pulling 12 FPS. Try to get somewhat of a full shot there. So that's actually a lot more impressive than what I expected it to be. I really did not expect this thing to do this well. So it might be able to run Windows at 4K, but that'd be about it. I don't think you'd be able to do anything else with it. 50, 70, 160. That's not terrible. It's not good, but it's not terrible. Yeah, you definitely would not want to mine on this. Alright, and there's final. That's not terrible. I will key this into my benchmark spreadsheet and we'll compare it to the rest of the stuff I have. Alright, you'll have to excuse me, it's been a few days since the last part of this. I have just not had time to film the wrap-up for this. So, where we left it, the overall pass mark was a 3012 for the 66th percentile. I have gotten the new SSD in. That thing is a bad little drive. Brought us up to the 70th percentile at 3273.3. Came in at a 16,798 versus a 4200 for our other SSD. Keep in mind, a hard drive would be well beyond either way. That SSD puts us in the 99th percentile for their benchmarks. Now, how that ranks in with everything else that we have benchmarked, it's rather interesting. And of course, I closed my benchmarks file before I even started filming this for whatever reason. Okay, well, maybe you need to say it's benchmarks instead of Microsoft Excel. Maybe I would understand it then. Whatever, Excel. Okay, so anyway, in pass mark, our G5400 came in at a 5548, which is below the 2500K at 6426 and below the FX6300 at 762. It was more than double the Athlon 2 X2 260, which is another dual-core chip, at 5548. So in comparison to the 2500K, which is a 4-core chip, you would expect it to not be as far up there. In comparison to the dual-core chips that I have tested, it blows them out of the water. Now, for a $50 chip, $60 chip, the 260 was a $60 chip when it was new. So a 5548 versus a 2000 is really not that bad. It's more than double for the same cost. So that's not terrible. Switching over to Cinebench. Apparently I never Cinebenched the 2500K. I don't know if it wouldn't run or if I just didn't remember to key it in, because I have the 285 that is in that same system benchmarked. Oh, that's under pass mark. So yeah, so I may not have just forgotten it or just never did it, but I don't know. So eventually I will have to go back and do that next time that system is together. But we're a lot closer to our FX6300 in Cinebench, coming in at a 388 versus a 411 for the 6300. And then our i5-4570, which is a 4-core 4th generation, comes in at 521. So it looks better there, but still not anything great. And then our 970 Evo Plus came in at the 16799. Our next highest drive is the unnamed Samsung in the laptop, and that's at 14,946. Our next fastest drive is the drive in Silver Lake, which is a Samsung 850 Evo, and that comes in at 5083, but that's a standard SATA drive. The other two are NVMe. So if you don't really think NVMe is that big of a performance, we're sitting easily 3 times a SATA 3 drive. So overall, the 3012, believe it or not, would actually put it above the Panther system with the i5-4570 stock graphics and the Intel 180 SSD. Though if I reran that with the GTX 970, that would put it well above, probably closer into the 4,000-ish range. So that'd still put it well out of reach. It does overall, because of the drive and the DDR4, beat out the 2500K with the GTX 225 and the SanDisk Z410. So, bottom line is the G5400 a good value. You know, compared to other $60 chips, yes, it's a good value. Compared to anything else, no, it's not. Unless you get a bunch of Z370, Z390 boards and you need a processor to test them to make sure they're good, then it's great. It's perfect for that. Um, but I wouldn't, there's not a lot of upgrade path to it. You go to an i3, i5, i7, i9, you're talking higher dollars. You're talking, I've seen 8600Ks for 200-ish, but I'm holding out for 97 or 99, which is going to be 400 to 500. So for testing boards, yeah, it's great. It's an awesome thing, and it'll do that job very, very well. I do notice Windows runs a little sluggish, but I don't have an internet connection, but I do have drivers installed and all that. So my guess is that we're just pegging the CPU while trying to index that drive, which is, as fast as it is, shouldn't really take that much. So that is all I have for you this time. Not sure how quickly things are going to move along. Gotta pay some bills down, but when we get the next piece of this puzzle, we'll be back with another video and see what it looks like. So thank you very much. See you next one.